Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Daniel, aka HashLips, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can permanently store your NFT data on Arweave. So before we start, just would like to say that all my videos are for educational purposes only. Do your own research for if in case some of the URLs ever change in the future. Anyway, let me give you some context on why I'm making this video today. Let's say you're an artist and you have an NFT collection. The problem is the data is probably stored on something like IPFS, maybe via a pinning service, and that could have a monthly cost attached to it. Now for an artist, it's simply not viable to pay that monthly fee, so we need to come up with a solution. How can we store this data and make it persist for many years? Potentially forever. And by doing this, we only want to pay once. There is a service for this, and that is called Arweave. Arweave has been around for quite some time, and I've mentioned it in my previous videos. However, I want to give a shout out to Altio. He's a community member that brought this to my attention, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal. So much so that I'm going to upload all my images and metadata of my NFT collections to Arweave. I think it's brilliant if I can pay once and have the data persist for many years to come. And I think they promise something like 200 years. Don't quote me on that, do your own research. But this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you the process today. What makes Arweave beautiful is that it's decentral, and there are various ways that we can upload data to Arweave. You can of course use the CLI, get down into the code, but for today's video, I'm going to show you a way of doing it through ArDrive. I feel it's very user-friendly and a lot of people can get what I'm doing right off the bat instead of worrying about too much code. We are going to code because we need to do a certain step to get our metadata linked up, but it should be easy enough. So to get started, head to ardrive.io. You can try it out. You can also see the pricing. By the way, this video is not sponsored by any means at all. I just simply want to do this because I want to persist my data for a very long time. But pricing is worked out per file that you store, and it's really not bad, as you will see. So click on try for free, and then we can click on let's go. And then you'll need to set up a wallet, much like a MetaMask account. But in this case, you're going to set up your Arweave account. I already have an account, but you would probably click here on change your profile or create a new one. So you can just select new user and then follow the steps. You will need to store these seed phrases on a very secure place and just follow the steps until you have your account and you can sign in. Once you have that wallet, you'll need to get some AR tokens, which is Arweave's chains tokens. Okay, and you can get that through Binance or however you buy your cryptocurrency and send it to your public address so that you can utilize those funds to store your data. Once you have signed in, you'll be presented with the screen and yours might look empty. You'll see public and private drives. Now, disclaimer here, be very cautious what you upload because what you are going to upload is going to be there forever, and it might be public if you do it in the public drive. Okay, so just a disclaimer there. And in general, this process that I'm doing here today is a bit dangerous if you do not know what you are doing, because you might misalign your metadata of your collection. So if you are not sure, rather reach out to someone in the community and ask a friend, a developer friend, to help you out. Alright, so the next thing that you would do to upload your metadata and your NFTs and your images is you need to create a drive. So I'm going to create a new drive over here and say new drive and give it a name. This name would be OG_NFTs, like so. And I'm going to make this a public drive. All right, so let's click on create, and then we should have a new drive. And there you can see the new drive. Now, what we want to do is not really directly upload the images here. Well, I mean, you can, but the thing is, I like to keep my stuff organized. So firstly, I'm going to create a new folder. So while I have this drive selected, and you can see the path here at the top, I'm on OG NFTs, I'm going to say new and then new folder. Now, the collection of NFTs that I'm going to upload today is called Nerdy Coder Clones. So I'll just call this NNC and then click on create. And this should create for us a new folder. And now I'm going to go into the NNC folder. As we can see, I'm in NNC and I'm going to create another folder as well. And this one, I'm just going to call images. The thing is, NFTs usually have images and metadata, and I just want to have the folder structure set up in such a way where it makes sense, especially if you have a few other NFT collections, you can keep them nice and organized. Now let's go ahead into the images folder, and now that we are in the images folder, this is where we are going to upload the images. But keep in mind, so on your account, on your public address or your wallet, you at least need some AR tokens. So you can get them from Binance or from a marketplace, like I said, and then send it to your public address. As you can see, I already have some AR tokens, and this is important because this is where you'll need to pay to persist the data. So the next step is for us to actually have the data to upload. On a folder, I have stored my images of the Nerdy Coder Clones collection in images as well, and there's about 1,000 of these images, and you can upload large collections like these 10,000 collections as well. I'm just doing this with a smaller collection so I can show it on a video. Very important as well is I'll need some sort of metadata file, and this file we're going to alter with code later on in the video. So rather watch the full video before you just follow along and make sure you have all the working parts. By the way, the metadata file I got from the HashLips art engine as I was generating the original collection. So that's very important because later on we're going to write a script that's going to run through the metadata and reintroduce the new URLs. Okay, so now next step for us to do is you can either click there on upload your first files. I'm simply going to select all these files and drag them on here. So now Arweave or the ArDrive is going to work out what we need to pay to upload 1,000 images. Okay, wow, that is a very nice surprise. It says that it's going to cost $0. Now, it says that it's free thanks to Turbo. I'm pretty sure I do not have Turbo or whatever this is, but one AR token is equivalent to about $7 US. So previously I uploaded 10,000 NFTs, and that cost me roughly between 50 and 60 US, right? And that is a bargain if you think about the data going to be there for quite some time, right? But I do not know why this is free. I'm actually going to cancel it, not that I want some free stuff, but I actually want to do this for the tutorials, you can see, and have it as close to real as possible, right? I don't want people to come back and say, well, it cost them money, so why not? So let's just have a look. Well, it still says that it's free. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. Let me go ahead then and upload them. So I cannot debate about that. It happened twice. And maybe you are lucky. Maybe it's a small amount of data that they allow you to upload. So while we wait for the data to sync and upload, I read a bit about Turbo, and this is actually very, very cool. And apparently, yes, so if the data is small enough, it could be free. So you can either upload one item that's smaller than 500 kilobytes, or you can upload multiple, if each individual one is less than 500 kilobytes, but the sum of them could be larger. And that was our case. So, I was in no means trying to do this. But anyway, it looks like you can get away with uploading data for free. But just be aware, if your files are larger, you're going to need some AR tokens to pay for this transaction if you upload them. So I didn't know that, but now I'm also learning something in this video. Okay, to get back to the video, we can now see our files uploaded to the images folder. Now, you'll notice that some of these are yellow, and with time they turn green, which I think means they are fully synced or they have enough block numbers. I'm not totally sure, but it's a good idea to wait for them to go all fully green before doing the next step that I'm going to show you. However, I want to show you something interesting. If we go on these three dots on the folder, we can actually click on more info, and actually look at the transaction hash on the View Block Explorer. And we can see this is the transaction for this folder. And we can do this for each and every image. So we can go here, more info, to details, and then look at the actual transaction. And this is amazing, right? This is where we can actually see the images or the data that we have uploaded. And also it looks like we were correct in our assumption that that is orange because of a pending state. So I guess with some time, it's going to have some more confirmations like a blockchain, right? Because it is a blockchain. So this is what's so wonderful. But one thing that is a bit weird is how we access the data. And what I mean by this is that if we want to actually view the image, of course, we can go and track down the ID and the metadata. We can click on share this file, copy this link, and go and view it in the browser. But we cannot go to this folder and look for one.png. For example, we cannot use a folder, although this is the ID, but just as an example, go and say one.png. It will simply not give it to us like it is in this folder structure. But there is a way that we can do this with the Arweave ecosystem and ArDrive and just how it works in the CLI. You can do it. And that is to use manifests. So whenever you need access to data by its name, I would say, in a folder, then we create a manifest file. So let's go ahead and do that. So now it's time to create a manifest file. Like I said, I usually like to wait for all these to be green, but it looks like we can create it. So I'm going to click on New and then go to Advanced and create a new manifest file. This file I'm going to call NNC images and then manifest. Okay, let's click Next. Now we need to select a target folder. So I'm going to click on NNC and then images. And this is where I want to create the manifest file. All right. So now it's going to tell us there needs to be a fee. This is a very small fee. Usually it cost me $0.01, I would say, but it looks like it's free with this turbo thing again. Today, everything seems to be free, so I'm not going to complain. So in the images folder, and if we go to the very last page, we can see the manifest file here. Now let me just explain what the manifest file is doing. Well, you see that we have all these images in this folder, and this manifest file simply groups them, kind of all their different transactions, and gives us one entry point to kind of say, hey, this is the ID, and this is kind of like our folder, and we would like to access data within this folder by referencing the data's name. We should be able to use the hash that we get from this transaction, and then put a / and say 1.png or 5.png, and that should give us the actual image. Let's try it out in the browser. Firstly, let's go and get the actual hash or the transaction. So click on More Info and click on Data Transaction. And now we can see here is our transaction. So we can actually copy this TX over there. And then when we enter it into a URL, what we could do is just type in arweave.net and then / our transaction hash and then 1.png. So if we call this, we get the actual image. We can now try 20.png and it changes. So now we actually have kind of the folder, quote unquote, or actually the entry point to all 1,000 images that we've uploaded to ArDrive. And this is wonderful because this means now that we have our entry point to our images. So the next step for us is to create our metadata and point each metadata file towards this image, and then go ahead and upload that metadata and create another manifest file. So we're going to do that just now, but I just want to illustrate how important and significant this is, because later in future videos, I'm going to show you how you can build out the central dApps using this method of the manifest to get entry points to your index.html and assets on your dApp. So it's pretty cool. Now it's time to get our code on. So go and get a coffee. Make sure you have Visual Studio Code installed on your machine, as well as Node.js. You can install the latest stable version. That should be fine. Now go ahead and open Visual Studio Code and make sure that you open the folder that contains that underscore metadata.json file. It so happens to be that it's in a folder where my images are. Remember, this is my local images, and this underscore metadata.json file is the file I showed you way in the beginning with all the NFTs, metadata, and information. This will be important because we're going to use this file to recreate the metadata and then store the new locations of those images that's on Arweave. Next, what we're going to do is create a new file. And I'm just going to call this update.js. And in here, I'm going to paste a script. This is a pre-written script that works for the metadata with the HashLips Art Engine or metadata that's been generated with it. And I'll explain why in just a second. It might look daunting, but try and copy this as close as possible. So pause the screen and start typing. That's why you need that coffee. But you can also find this script in many of the HashLips Art Engine's utility folders. The fact that we have it here is because we don't need the whole art engine. We just need the script to run through our metadata, look at each file, and recreate it. So let's run through the code. And before we do that, very important, let's go and grab this unique hash that is our folder to our images. Go back to Visual Studio Code and replace it in here. Now, I am using this extension, but for many of the marketplaces, I believe something like this also works, the AR extension. But I like to use this because I don't think Arweave is going to change their URLs, and I see that it's pointing to the latest hashes. So I'm going to use this, but you can do your own research and decide which extension you would like to use. However, I'm going to replace it like so. And I just heard the video, so excuse the echo in my voice. I'm sitting in a fairly empty room right now. Anyway, let's go through the code. So here we have our base path, which simply uses the process to select our folder where we are in, using the file, the FS file system from Node, so that we can actually get access to work with some data and some files. Of course, we're setting the base URL. Here we are grabbing the raw data, and this doesn't look good, so I'm just going to rename this to raw data like that. Anyway, we're grabbing raw data over here, and we are simply reading this metadata.json file. And this is exactly what we will be reading. It's an array filled with these objects, and each object contains DNA, the name, description, image, and this is what we want to swap out. So we want to swap this out, but keep the 1.png, 2.png, and so forth. And we're most likely going to grab that information from the edition. So your metadata at least needs to have an edition or a way for you to find out what number that is. Then what we are doing is we are iterating over each item in the raw data, and we are setting the image property to the base URI, which is this one, / the edition number.png. Then we're going to save this file in a folder called build and then JSON, which we don't have, and we are not checking for that in the code, so I highly recommend let's just create it. Otherwise, we are going to run into some problems. So create a folder, call it build, and then JSON, like so. Now that we have that, our program shouldn't fail. I haven't tested it out, so we're going to check it out, but it saves it over there. And then we are just saving all the metadata in that file as well with the same underscore metadata.json. And this just simply stores all the data after we have updated it. And here we're just logging out that we have done so. Now that everything looks good, what I'm going to do is click on terminal here at the top and select new terminal. Make sure that you are in this folder, and now I'm simply going to search for update.js, but we need to call node update.js. And if I run this, all of a sudden, I have all my JSON files in this build folder. So it did work the first time, which is great to see. But we need to double check. So let's open the new underscore metadata.json file. And here we can see the extension has changed for the image. We can also open each individual JSON file and just make sure that that has happened too. And let's test one out. Let's go and open this in the browser and have a look. And indeed, there we get the actual image of number 12. So this has worked perfectly well. So now that I do have this in my builds folder, I can now go ahead and upload this to ArDrive. This will be very much the same steps we did for images. So I'm going to head back over to the OG underscore NFTs and then to the NNC folder. Here we can see images are here, but I want to create a new folder. And this one would be called metadata, like so. Now let me create that folder, and inside of the metadata, now I'm going to upload all those metadata files, including the underscore metadata.json. It's not necessary to include the underscore metadata.json, but I like doing it for in case I ever want to create some cool application with this, right? So I'm just anyway going to upload this while I'm doing this step. So I can see that I'm going to upload 1001 files. So we'll see, it's probably going to be free because that's the trend of the video today. And in fact, it shouldn't be free. And there we go. Okay, so now you can actually see it will charge me. And there we can see it's going to cost 0.004 AR tokens. And at the conversion rate of $7.50, you can see this is not bad. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this. Now we have all of our metadata files here, and much like before, we need to create a new manifest file. So let's do that again, and this time we'll call it NNC metadata underscore manifest, like so. And this is important again to point to the right folder, this one over here, and then we can just click on confirm. It's important because we need to access this folder in a way in our smart contract. Now, many smart contracts work differently, so let me just show you that last simple step. So back at our NFT collection on OpenSea, I'm simply going to click on any token and then scroll down to the details, and I'm going to actually click on the token ID. This will bring up the metadata that's currently attached to this file. And we can clearly see that the metadata is using IPFS, but now I want to use Arweave. So I'm going to go back and click on the actual contract of this NFT collection. And we can see the creator, so make sure that you are on the creator's account and that you actually do have access still to the contract. Otherwise, you will not be able to update anything. Now, important is to first read what your contract is doing. And it's important to read the contract. Like I said, every smart contract works differently. So I'm going to go to the part where I can see the entry, and here we go. We can see that there is this .json extension, the base extension, but what I'm interested in is the token URI, this one. We can see that we take the encoded packet of the current base URI, which we need to change, and then it just appends the token ID and the base extension. So we need to give it this current base URI. So to see if the contract can do this, we're going to go to write contract, and then we need to first of all connect our wallet. So I'm going to connect my wallet, and this is on the Polygon network, so I need to make sure I'm on Polygon. And then I'm going to search for this function set base URI, not the extension. Let me just verify. And the reason why I'm making sure that it's this is because if you mess this up, then you can lose your metadata and your images. So that's why it is very important not to mess around with this stuff, but only when you need to. And like I said, I really want this data to persist for many, many years. And that's the only reason why I am doing this. So just to reiterate how dangerous this could be if you do not know what you are doing. For the new base URI, I'm going to make sure to copy the HTTPS version over here. And then I need to go to ArDrive and go and find my manifest. And let's click on more. Let's go to this over here. And then I need this hash. So let's go and put it in here. And then very important, because we see the code, we need to add a / so that the extension could be the edition number.json. Now, before you even do this, I highly recommend entering it in here and just testing it out. I'm just going to add to.json to see if I can get this metadata back. And when I do, I should verify if this is the correct metadata that it was before. And then on top of that, I should test out if the image does show up for that NFT. Once I am sure that that is correct, I can then go ahead and write this transaction. So let me do that. MetaMask should pop up and I'm going to say confirm. And now once this is done, we're going to go back to OpenSea and just see if this did update and if we can get this metadata back. Let's go and view the transaction and we can see it was successful. So we're going to go back to OpenSea, and like I said, if we now go to the token ID, if we open it up, we can still see this is putting from IPFS with that data. So what we need to do is just refresh the metadata on this file. Let's also give it a quick refresh. And now I'm going to go down and I can see metadata is here. But the true question would be is if we click on this token ID, if we go to this metadata, we can now see that this is pulling from Arweave. And there is the image and we can see that it's updated on OpenSea. And now this image is going to be here for the next 200 years and however long Arweave decides to have it on there. But regardless of how cool this is, I just want to reiterate, be careful when you do these things. Make sure you know what you're doing. But I truly hope that this was really informative and educational as always. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like and subscribe to this channel. And I hope to see a lot more of you guys in 2024. Let me know what you want to see next. Cheers for now.